It's 10:31 p.m. on a Friday night at a general hospital in Indiana. Brenda is the charge nurse and is moving between patients who need her care. She's using an AI-powered application that helps her take notes, document interactions, and sets reminders, critical steps for delivering the care that her patients need. And that application is run on Kubernetes. And as more and more applications like this depend on Kubernetes, we have to enable and onboard our platform engineers, our developers, our team leads who support these workloads. Brenda's job is hard, and even right now, we're in the middle of a nursing crisis. So if we can just make her job even a little bit easier, that's the kind of impact that matters. Lowering the barrier to entry and making Kubernetes more accessible isn't just a technical goal. It's about helping people like Brenda and enabling teams to deliver the workloads that she depends on. And that, in essence, is the promise of conversational Kubernetes. So making Kubernetes operations easier so we can support the applications that support people like Brenda. So my name is Will Case, and I'm a product manager at Microsoft. I'm the product manager for Headlamp, and I'm happy to be here today. I know we're all very passionate about the technology we build. We're all very opinionated, but I wanted to ground it in the reality of the impact that the technology we build has on the world outside of this room. So in this agenda, first we'll look at the Kubernetes problem space, the challenges there. A lot of it you're already familiar with. We'll talk about conversational Kubernetes. Then we'll look at how the Headlamp AI assistant provides value. And then we'll take a look at the vision in the future and what we're aiming to achieve in Headlamp. So we'll start with the Kubernetes problem space. And many of us know this all too much. So even yesterday, I was talking with a team lead, and he was talking about how complex it is. He has maybe 3 or 4 teams set up just to continuously onboard his users to be able to deliver their workloads. So first, when we're thinking about this problem space, we're thinking about complexity. So Kubernetes is powerful, but it demands detailed syntax knowledge, right? We know that all too well. So if you've ever entered or typed kubectl get pods, namespace equals production, and you miss the dash, and you see the kind of the frustration that comes with that one small mistake. And then if we're thinking about newer users, that can be a bit deflating. And second, something that we see often with Kubernetes, there's no single entry point, right? If I'm new, I want to learn, I'm looking just about everywhere, right? So just to do basic tasks, I'm often juggling multiple tools. I'm looking at kubectl, terminal, I'm looking at dashboards, metrics, and even separate CLIs and add-ons. And it's like trying to manage a city while using 5 different maps. And then there's documentation, or if we can put it bluntly, documentation overload, right? So the answers you need are often scattered across GitHub issues, blog posts, and official docs. And when something breaks, it really feels like you're putting on your Sherlock Holmes hat and doing a bit of detective work. And all of this adds up to friction, especially for new users and teams that are trying to move fast. It's not just a learning curve. Sometimes it feels like a learning wall. And in my prior role, I was a solution architect, and the whole goal of that role was to onboard people to AKS, right? And we can say, I want to make this a safe place for us to admit that Kubernetes is hard. And it's OK to say that out loud. If your manager's in the room, just look forward and nod. You don't have to, you don't have to indicate that that was your experience. You took one look and you figured it all out. So that's our problem space there, complexity. And then on top of that, if we're thinking about developer experience, a lot of us are operators, and we're essentially giving our platform to software engineers in different teams. So with them, so looking at, I'm sorry, let me go back. So looking at the developer experience, with that learning curve, we're often having to master Kubernetes concepts. Command lines take time, weeks, even months often, and there's frequent context switches, right? So terminals, dashboards, documentations, just to do a single task. And if you want to do some debugging on top of that, it gets often even more complex, right? And you have to know Kubernetes internals, like your pods, your controllers, your networking. And that can be particularly intimidating for anyone who's new. And then finally, all of that kind of crescendos into our productivity suffering. So instead of focusing on delivering value, we're working through these complex workflows that's slowing down our delivery process, increasing our cognitive load. And instead of focusing on building our features, developers often spend hours wrestling with infrastructure to some degree. And that's where sort of the promise of conversational Kubernetes comes in, right? So right now, we're starting to see, or we're in the midst of, we can say it is a shift, an industry shift. So this isn't just something we're trying to implement and solve within the Headlamp project. This is something that we're seeing across the industry, right? So it's a part of this bigger industry shift. First, we're moving from just commands to conversation. And in infrastructure management, it used to mean like kubectl, rigid syntax, memorizing flags, things like that. And now it's shifting more towards natural language, right? Becoming the interface. So instead of typing those commands, you just say something like, show me all pods in production. With Headlamp, as we'll see in a few, it's a little bit easier. And second, we're even seeing this on platform engineering trends, right? We're seeing that teams are building, we're building these internal tools, and they're essentially wrapping Kubectl in, conversational layers. And the reason for this is because it saves time and it makes onboarding easier. So if you can imagine a new hire asking, deploy the latest version of our app when they're testing an application in a testing environment, and the system just does it, that's a lot easier than having to kind of cipher through our documentation and find the right commands. And third, we're also seeing this at the cloud provider level. Just about every major cloud provider and some companies as well are getting into this space, right? They're introducing these AI-driven agents for operational simplicity. And you can just pull up whatever cloud you're interested in and ask about conversational Kubernetes, ask about AI integrations, and you'll see all the lists of it, right? And all these assistants, they're helping with troubleshooting, scaling clusters, and even predicting failures. So this trend of conversational Kubernetes, it isn't just a niche idea, but it's really where the industry is headed. And the question then becomes, Headlamp is a community UI. We see ourselves as the UI for our community, and other projects can use our platform and extend their functionality in a visual way. How then do we grapple with this industry shift in an open source way that supports whatever agents are needed, whatever tools that are needed? And that's essentially where we're headed. And then, so getting to why this matters, as I mentioned earlier. So why does this matter? And it matters for the reduction in that operational overhead, right? So think about the hours spent memorizing Kubectl or the hours spent in workshops. I was onboarding customers to AKS probably every other week, and we'll be in 3-day workshops, 8 hours a day, and I'll see those eyes roll back in heads. I'll see those really long blinks and everyone nodding off, and that's a part of the process now for Kubernetes. It's hard, it's labor intensive, and often we have to create teams to help meet that need. But what if there was another way, right? And second, this makes Kubernetes more inclusive, right? So not everyone comes from a traditional DevOps background, right? And imagine a role like a data scientist who just wants to deploy a model. So they shouldn't need to master Kubectl to do that, or they shouldn't need to have master the command line syntax. Instead, natural language is going to lower that barrier and open the door for more contributors. And this, in total, is signaling a paradigm shift, right? So we're moving from command line mastery to more about user intent. If you think about the journey of a new user in Kubernetes, they may understand overall concepts, but how that translates into the command line, they may not always grasp those steps, and that's where Conversational Kubernetes can step in. And finally, ultimately, it aligns with CNCF goals. So usability, sustainability, and human-centered cloud-native ecosystem. So this isn't just about convenience, it's about a future of Kubernetes that's more accessible and more resilient. So we're thinking about faster time to value, faster time to support the customers and the end users that need us the most. And next, we're going to look at how the Headlamp AI assistant is providing value. So for those of you who aren't quite familiar with Headlamp, let's get into that. So Headlamp is a rich, modern UI. So instead of using YAML terminal, you can get a clean interface, and it makes clusters, workloads easy to explore. So imagine opening a dashboard and instantly seeing your pods, your deployments, logs, all in one place. Second, it's open source, right? Headlamp is Apache 2.0 licensed. It's a part of the Kubernetes, it's a Kubernetes subproject, a part of the Kubernetes SIG UI org. Third, it's multi-cloud and multi-cluster. So we can see multiple clouds at the multiple clusters at the same time, and it's vendor agnostic. So whether you're thinking about GKE, AKS, EKS, Headlamp will be able to surface that without having to juggle multiple tools. And fourth, it's available in web app and desktop. So you can run it in the cluster as a web app, and you can install it locally as a desktop app, and that might be better suited for the developers who want like a fast inner loop. Personally, I prefer the desktop app, but that's just me. And finally, it's extensible, right? So the core of the philosophy at Headlamp is being that UI for the community so that they can use us as a base and have a visual way to extend their projects, right? So whether you want GitOps with a tool like Flux, or security checks with Kubectl, or auto-scaling insights with Carpenter, you'd be able to add those capabilities right inside Headlamp. And next, let's talk about the overview of the AI assistant, right? So first, it's built right into the Headlamp. It's built right into Headlamp. All you have to do is go to our plugin catalog, click AI Assistant, set up your API keys. You're going to set the LLM endpoints, select your model, create a name, select a name. So all of this is to streamline the process and to make that even easier, right? And once that's done, this gives you natural language interface. So instead of having to type kubectl get pods, you can ask something like, is my app healthy? Or restart that deployment. It's intuitive and it's fast, right? And this supports a conversational workflow. So you're not just juggling between dashboards or terminals. You can execute commands and see results in this chat-like interface. And once it's installed, it has an icon at the top right of the screen. You can open the chat, close it as needed. And finally, it's beginner-friendly. For someone new to Kubernetes, this removes a lot of that friction, right? They're seeing a visual reality of the things, the resources that they've been learning about, interacting with. And they can focus less on syntax and more on what they want to achieve. And setup is fairly simple. Like I mentioned, we have a plugin catalog. You click it, install, and you're good to go. You select your LLM provider. You configure that. And as with everything in Headlamp, it respects Kubernetes RBAC, so you're not going to be able to edit or view anything that you don't have access to. And of course, you need network connectivity. We also do have, you can configure like a Ollama model. So if you wanted something local, you can do that as well. And from a high-level overview, this is what we're looking at, right? So supports multiple providers like Azure OpenAI, Claude, Mistral, Ollama models. Commands run safely within the cluster, respecting RBAC. And one of the coolest things is understand context. So it understands exactly what the UI state and what you're looking at. And the architecture supports future enhancements. It's extensible. And next, we'll do a quick demo. Pre-recorded, of course. So here, we're running through the flow of installing the Headlamp AI Assistant. We're going to the plugin catalog, hitting install, you refresh, it's already there. So it's installed. And then from there, we're configuring the AI Assistant. So we're setting up our LLM endpoints, our API keys. We're going to select our models and so forth. So we're starting with Azure OpenAI. We're grabbing our endpoints there. We're going to grab our keys. And then put a name in, select model, and that's it. We're even going to add an extra one right here. Right? And we're running through the same process. So we're grabbing those configurations, the API keys, the endpoints, selecting the model, and now we're off to the races. Right? So we hit the icon on the right, and we're seeing the chat interface. We can ask questions. There's some guardrails on it, so it's going to keep you within a Kubernetes context, or if you're asking about something outside of that, it's going to say, hey, I don't know a lot about that, but I can tell you about Kubernetes. Here we're seeing a config map. User asked about that. You can edit it and make updates. Of course, in a production cluster, you would be using a GitOps tool like Flux and making that a part of your workflow. And later on, we actually show, we're going to skip ahead a bit, but we actually show the AI assistant interacting with the GitHub MCP and the Flux MCP. So now we're getting some more information. Let's see how to do some basic level troubleshooting. So troubleshooting can get fairly intense. And what we're seeing in the space of AI troubleshooting is that it's important for our users to understand both the process for the agent, what steps it's taking, what tools it's interacting with, and what data it's looking at to see what decisions led to the remediation or how things land on that end. So, and that's twofold. The reason for that is you want to be able to double check and make sure that nothing's hallucinating, but at the same time, you don't want a black box, and you want your users who are troubleshooting for the first time to be able to understand how they think through problems that arise in a cluster, right? What are you looking at? What are those error messages? What's that data and how we get to it? Like what reference architecture we're looking at. Maybe it's something within the org. So we're looking at that. And on the screen now, we're seeing our map. We're continuing our troubleshooting. We'll have to skip ahead a little bit for time, but we're seeing here and again, this is more of a test cluster. We're seeing real time doing a bit of troubleshooting led by the AI assistant. So it understands the context, it's seeing what's going on, and you're able to act on it. And here, we're going to have to skip ahead, but it starts to interact. We see it here. It starts to interact with the GitHub NCP in the Flux to deliver on GitOps workflow and make changes. So vision and future for a Headlamp AI assistant, right? So the big picture, right? So our vision is simple, right? Kubernetes for everyone. So today we talked about some of those pain points. We talked about complexity. We talked about the steep learning curves, the fragmented workflows. And these challenges tend to slow down innovation and keeps Kubernetes out of reach for many users. And with conversational Kubernetes, that's a first step towards changing that. So by making these interactions more intuitive and more inclusive, we're lowering the barrier and helping more people succeed with Kubernetes. And in the case of Headlamp, we have the platform, the visual intuitive UI, and then we couple that with conversational Kubernetes, and we think that there's a lot we can do in terms of speeding up and reducing our time to value across our ecosystem, right? And then finally, it's at the heart of human-centered design. So our goal isn't just to build features, it's to simplify Kubernetes for all skill levels. So developers, your platform engineers, and even some of our non-traditional users like data scientists, they can focus on delivering value and not fighting syntax, right? And this is ultimately about shaping the future, a future in where Kubernetes feels more approachable and not intimidating. So the next leap, so what's next? So next, we're doing full agentic support, as I mentioned before. The planning, the reasoning, being able to scale your app, things like that. And second is to continue with MCP integration. So Model Context Protocol is emerging as one of the connective tissues in conversational Kubernetes, right? So being able to connect tools, data, and AI models seamlessly. And finally, as we mentioned, Headlamp being a UI for the community, in the same way, we're positioning Headlamp as an AI integrator. So our goal isn't just to be a UI. We're evolving into being a hub for AI for the CNCF ecosystem and for our users, a place where human-centered design meets intelligent automation, right? So if we can think of it from a 100-foot overview, whether what agent or MCP you're using, your right tool, right context, right when you need it. And finally, so what's next? So first, as I mentioned and you saw in the demo, download Headlamp, install the AI agent, and second, join the community. Share ideas, report issues, even build plugins. And finally, stay connected. I'm on almost every community call. We're in the CNCF Slack channel, hashtag Headlamp. And this is where you can help shape the future of Kubernetes usability for our community. Thank you.